Well, ladies and gentlemen, I actually take it that all those cheers were because it's actually Margaret Thatcher's birthday, the 13th of October, for one of the really true inspirational Eurosceptics who set the tone when she said no, no, no to what Europe was developing into and made it clear that the United Kingdom could never be part of that. And it is in that spirit that I want to remind you, actually, of how marvellous and courageous and determined you all are. Because as Nigel alluded to, we were warned of all sorts of terrible things that were going to happen in Project Fear, of the 800,000 jobs that were going to be lost, of the punishment budget that was going to happen. And the British people, led and inspired by people like you who were willing to be on this side before it was a winning cause, before it was fashionable, decided that they weren't going to be bullied, that they were going to stand up for what they believed in, stand up for democracy, and make sure that we restored our freedoms. And we see Project Fear continues. I hope you've noticed the latest set of announcements, because I imagine you are all very worried about what has come out, particularly on the thought that caviar is going to be more expensive. I do understand that the plump panjandrums in Parliament may be worried about the price of caviar, but if that is the only cost we have to bear on leaving the European Union, I think we'll just about cope. And that, I think, shows the ludicrous nature of Project Fear, that it is trying to think up anything and everything it can to make us believe we are a weak country. But we're not a weak country. We are a strong country, a great country, not only by our history, but by our future. And it seems to me that there are two types of politician. There are those who believe that they are in politics to manage the decline of a weak and failing nation. And there are politicians who believe that we remain a great nation and have great opportunities ahead of us. I'm afraid the government is now in the business of managing decline. It doesn't think that Brexit can be a success, and therefore it must ameliorate the consequences. I think Brexit is this stunning and exciting opportunity that we must grasp for and embrace and take on full-bloodedly. Why do I think that? Well, first of all, and most simply and straightforwardly, we will make better decisions for ourselves than other people can make for us. And that is true. That is true of us as individuals, as us as society, and as us as a nation. We know what is our interests better than bureaucrats do, elites do, or international bodies do. And that confidence in democracy, even when it gives the result you don't want. I didn't want the election result we had in 1997. But it was a legitimate result, and actually, in the long term, has led to greater opportunities for this country. Sometimes even the best political parties get tired and need to be refreshed. Democracy leads to creativity, to opportunity, and to success. But I go further than that, because the economic chance that we have by leaving the European Union is enormous. Look at that European economic model. It has failed in every degree, and the more extreme it is, the more it has failed. The acme of failure is the euro. The euro, that great destroyer of young hopes and young jobs, the creator of depression across southern Europe. Why should we want to be in an organization that does that when we can make ourselves the freest of free trading nations across the world? We can make consumer prices cheaper for everybody, particularly in food, clothing, and footwear, helping the least well off in our society the most. Isn't that an exciting thing to be doing? And we can regulate according to our own needs. Wasn't it scandalous what we heard about the cod supplies? 92% of the quota not going to British fishermen, but going to continental fishermen. Now look, I wish those fishermen, whatever country they come from, well. They are brave individuals doing a difficult job. One as a landlubber I would not wish to do myself. But I want the resources to benefit our economy. And I think we should have regulations that help our fishermen in our domestic waters rather than continental fishermen. But that's just a starting point. I want James Dyson to be able to make his excellent hoovers, or vacuum cleaners, as I probably ought to call them, or Dysons, as we will no doubt call them in future generations. I want him to make ones that are efficient for people to use in this country, not to help German industry. Again. And I don't know if we have any members of the Green Party here, but if we do, the Green Party was at one point very Eurosceptic, because the European Union, by putting tariffs on Chinese photovoltaic cells to protect an inefficient German industry, made it harder and more expensive for people to have green energy. So whatever spectrum of politics you're on, whether you are a hard-nosed right-winger or whether you are a green lefty, you have... As an aside, I went to a lunch yesterday and the vegetarian option was salmon. I thought that wouldn't particularly please. I'm leaving that to one side. Wherever you are, you see the benefits of leaving and taking back control. And we've got the board here, behind me somewhere. Here it is. No deal, no problem, other than, of course, for caviar. But even if there are problems, and there may be some, there may be a punishment Brexit. Bear that in mind. But what is our response to a punishment Brexit? What is always the response to a bully? You stand up to a bully. You don't... Dare I say, we've stood up to the French once or twice before. Normally rather successfully. And that must be the message. If there are queues at Dover, if the M20 becomes a car park, if there are certain difficulties for a short time because the EU decides to cut off its nose to spite its face, if the EU is a mafia-style organisation that says if you want to leave, we will kneecap you, then all the better for leaving, because you have to get out of that organisation. But let's prepare ourselves for that. You see, what we want to do is be ready to leave, not just in terms of administrative matters, but we need to be ready to leave emotionally and to say we are reaching for a great prize. We are reaching for an exciting prize, a transformation of our nation's history. And if there's a few weeks' problems, if there is a punishment Brexit, that's not going to deter us. That's going to invigorate us, because we will know what we are doing is right. And let me give you one piece of reassurance. You may read in the newspapers that Tory MPs are getting a bit frit, to use Margaret Thatcher's word, a bit nervy, likely to back down in face of the terrors and the patronage that come forth from Downing Street. Well, let me deal in the floxy-knocky nihilopilification of these appalling rumours. Because, as I point out to the whips, there are probably 39 Tory MPs who are more tough-minded on this issue than I am. I am not the most tough-minded amongst my friends within the Conservative Party. And those 39 will not turn. I will not turn. And there are growing numbers. There are growing numbers beyond that who are determined that we should deliver on the Brexit that we promised. Why? Because the future of our country is at stake. The future of our party is at stake. The opportunity for the United Kingdom is within grasp. It is so exciting. We are so nearly there. We must make sure that Chequers is binned, that this idea of a customs union, this sheer lunacy of paying £3.5 billion a year to subsidise the European Union for all eternity, is binned. We are so close. We are almost there. We just need to be steady for a few more weeks. And if we do that, the prize is there to be grasped. With your support, we will grasp it. Thank you.